All right, we're going to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. David Gustitus from Whole Body Health Chiropractic, and this is Move Your Body, Heal Your Life. We're going to unlock the power of movement for long-term health. Let's get into it. Overview, what we're going to cover today. The fact is that movement is not optional. It is essential to your well-being. Number two, the relationship between movement and brain health. Not everyone understands the fact that what you do with your movement impacts your brain and its viability. Next, we'll cover practical tools and we'll talk about chiropractic and how those together can lead to long-term vitality. Here's a stat for you. Only 23% of the US adults meet the physical activity guidelines of 150 minutes of moderate exercise and 2 days of muscle strengthening per week. So that is a wake-up call. Knowing how important it is to get yourself moving and knowing how important it is for your well-being, that 23% figure is alarming. And I hope at the end of this, none of us listening or those who listen to this online will be a part of that statistic anymore. Next, let's look at the cost of inactivity. First of all, sedentary habits. Sedentary habits are basically when we're not moving, there is stagnation. And stagnation, think about like a dam in the river. The water stops flowing, the water isn't fresh anymore. The nutrients that would flow down river, they get bottled up. And that can be great if you're a beaver, but not great if you're, any species that requires access to downriver resources, or if you're trying to get fresh water to drink, you want fresh running water. And in our bodies, when we're not moving, our blood will pool. And by the same token as the river, that blood will pool in certain and distant parts. It'll pull down into our feet, into our legs, and will not get pushed back into our circulation, denying us the access to that blood to refresh it, replenish it with the nutrients like oxygen and different vitamins, minerals, protein, what have you, to help us rebuild our body. So what happens from that stagnation? It leads to pain. It can lead to disease. How does it lead to pain? Well, our body requires that motion to stimulate those nerves. So the nerves that are at every joint do not get fired, do not get stimulated. And over time, the less we use our body, the use it or lose it principle applies. Things start to break down that aren't used. It leads to spinal stress. How does that happen? Well, obviously, when our spine, if you look at the person in this picture here, they're hunched over a computer, their head is forward. That stresses and strains the spinal joints, which also stresses and strains the spinal cord that the spine is supposed to protect. The spinal bones make a hollow opening that the spinal cord and the nerves live through and travel through. And when the spinal bones get misaligned or they get shaped because of bad posture, or they simply are not getting stimulated with movement, then those nerve pathways start to get deactivated, understimulated, and then they break down and lead to pain because the body requires that movement. The stimulation that doesn't happen leads to alarm on the inside that the body tells the brain senses there's no movement and says, hey, we need to get that part moving. We need to get something happening there. And it comes concerned. And without that activation, the pain pathways start to get activated. So another fact, prolonged sitting increases the risk of death by 49% and the risk of cardiovascular events by 125%. So make sure you're spending as little of your day as possible sitting. And if you have to sit for your work or for your studies, make sure you're getting up to move on a regular basis. And when you're not sitting, make sure you are moving. You're standing, you're exercising, you're moving your body to keep everything circulating and stimulated neurologically. Now let's get into this. This is super important and impactful. And I was reading through this article that I'll cite for you, and it's incredible. Movement is a genetic requirement. Now, with my training as a chiropractic wellness provider, we looked at the genetic requirements of human health. And these genetic requirements are based on the fact that the human genome is only 0.02% different. That's 0.02% different from that genetic code or genetic makeup of our hunter-gatherer ancestors from 40,000 years ago. So if you look at if we're that genetically similar to hunter-gatherers from 40,000 years ago, that means the the environment and the lifestyle that our genes are looking for is based off of what they did, and they were much more active. So if you look at chronic illness physiology, meaning how our body works and what is leading to chronic illness, it is associated with sedentary living. And it's not due to bad genes or bad cells, it's due to lack of movement because our bodies are not moving um, at a level equivalent to what our genes require. So now look at this fascinating study. A 30-minute daily brisk walk has amazing benefits and is dose responsive, meaning that the more you do, the better. Look at some of these stats. A 30-minute daily brisk walk can prevent up to 91% of obesity, type 2 diabetes, prevents up to 50% of all cases of heart disease, and 50% of stroke deaths. This is just 30 minutes of a daily brisk walk. Further, it can help reduce the risk of breast cancer by up to 60%, lung cancer by 72%, reduction of colon cancer by 50%, and melanoma. Yeah, you heard that right. Melanoma by over 72%. And it can decrease all-cause mortality by 67% in the general population. That is from an article by Booth et al., and I can give you that citation if you would like it. Um, so that's mind-blowing, and I want you to understand that the 30-minute daily brisk walk is not sufficient according to our genetic requirements, but it's very impactful in terms of getting us on the road to that genetic requirement. So if you could get your head around 30-minute brisk walk every day, which is not a huge demand on your body, then get after that. Do that first. If you stop listening right now, just start doing a 30-minute daily brisk walk. And if you're already at that level and you're looking to get to a higher level of health, then keep listening. So understand that movement fuels the nervous system. Think of your brain like a battery, and it needs all the joints to move to recharge that battery. When we stop moving, the battery gets dimmer. If it was a light bulb, I guess it would get dimmer, but the battery just loses its charge. It gets less stimulated and it just shuts down. It needs that activation from movement, not just stimulation. We look at our phones and that's very stimulating and it gets us all activated, with in terms of playing on an app or learning something on Duolingo or reading the news or looking at social media. It's very stimulating, but from a thought and a visual point of view, and obviously can be very addicting because it's firing those dopamine pathways. But that's very different from moving all of your joints, which by themselves are stimulating and activating. Think of them like windmills. You rotate a windmill and you generate electricity. And every single joint in your body is like a windmill that needs to be spun, needs to be um, rotated in order to power up that electricity, which powers up your battery. And then your brain, in turn, can regulate and send energy down into your organs and your cells. So think about that flow. When you exercise, you're powering up your brain as a battery, and then that battery sends that energy out to all your light bulbs. Your light bulbs are like your organs, and those light bulbs can be bright and your health can be great. So it stimulates this brain body communication through those nerve pathways. It supports healthy mood, focus, sleep, and digestion. That again goes to that brain being healthy. It reduces pain and inflammation. Why? Because it does the opposite of the sitting and the stagnation. It it makes those nerve signals and stimulates those pathways, which makes the brain happy. The brain gets what it needs, and then the pain and inflammation can get shut down. The alarms can get turned off. And finally, it maintains the joints. Like think of your discs in your spine and the meniscus in your knees, the two meniscus in each side. Those are like sponges, and they need to be compressed and decompressed in order to get fluid in and out of them. So they require movement in order to be activated so that mechanically you get blood and nutrients and water into those discs, and that allows them to be hydrated and thick and be a cushion like they're meant to be. So if you have two bones and this meniscus or a disc in between, you want that disc or meniscus to be thick. And the only way that's going to happen is by moving. So like every one of the pair of bones in your spine has a disc in between, except for the very top, but forget that for now. But you need all those discs to be hydrated and activated, not only through movement, but also through that mechanical compression and decompression. Movement also regulates metabolism and on and on. There's so many benefits to movement. I don't have time to get into all the physiology. But in the previous slide, you saw that there's all these different health benefits impacting obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, breast cancer, how our immune system works, able to keep those mutations from becoming cancerous, helping our body balance the stress levels that we accumulate. Really think about how much we think up here and stress up here in our mind. And we create the physiology or the body chemistry of stress while we're sitting. And our bodies think that we're about to go do something with that stress. So if we're sitting at our desk and we read something that stresses us out, or if we progressively get more stressed as our day goes on, and we're not burning off that physical energy in our day, then it's a mismatch, right? Our brain's saying, get ready to fight or flight. And our body's saying, yeah, I'm ready too. I've got all the chemicals circulating and my muscles are ready to do that. I'm shutting down digestion because we don't need that right now. We're in fight or flight mode. And then we never do it, and our body's saying, "Hey, what are we going to do with all that adrenaline? And long term, what are we going to do with all this cortisol?" And we don't want to stay in that fight or flight mode, but it's bad when we're in that fight or flight activation state and we never burn it off. So we need to go to the gym, go for the walk, go and do your living room, find an area of carpet, a floor, what have you, and just get your body moving. Get, as I like to say, get the wiggles out and get your body to burn off what you just accumulated in terms of that energy. Um, Spinal movement, think about this. When you move your spine, it provides up to 90% of the required movement to the brain through spinal nerve receptors. So if you see this image on the screen here, you can see all those vertebrae. There's tons of little sensors and receptors in the spine that stimulate the brain and give it 90% of what it's looking for. That is a required nutrient. We need it every day. So what about the blending of chiropractic and movement? So if you had a stuck area that is misaligned in your spine, and you multiply that by several areas of your spine, a lot of my new patients have 6, 7, 8 levels of their 24 spinal levels stuck, locked down, deactivated because of a prior injury or because of that stagnation. Things shut down and brace and deactivate. That prevents full access and full motion in the spine. And then when you go to move and you go to, say, do a yoga class, or you do a walk, or you go to do another type of class, say Pilates or what have you, those areas are still staying stuck. So instead of moving like this as all your spine is moving in that class, they stay like this and you move around them. So the one above it will move, but this pair of bones will not. And then in the middle of that, the spinal cord and the nerves that branch off the spinal cord do not get activated. And unfortunately, they can get damaged because of misalignments and or stretch and or lack of activation and blood flow to the spinal cord. So when we don't have healthy spines, we take that unhealthy spine to our movement. So as we're trying to get our whole body activated, the restrictions that we carry to that exercise will be limiters to how much we can benefit from that exercise. As I was saying, the spine protects the nervous system. It improves brain function, especially up here, the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is where we do all of our executive function, like focus, concentration, and regulating and controlling different systems and processes in our body. It also, with chiropractic and movement combined, we help reset the autonomic nervous system. That autonomic nervous system is, think of it like the gas pedal and the brakes. The gas pedal is our fight or flight. In low doses, it's our get up and go. Oh, I've got to get up in the morning. I'm ready to start my day. If it's pedal to the metal, that's like fight or flight, overdrive, baby. We're going hard today. We're going to, we have so much to do, and maybe that can lead to too much. We need the brakes to be able to slow things down, to get balance, to be able to slow it down at night so that we can wind down and actually rest when it's time to rest. And we can retreat into our rest and repair digestion mode, which is the other side of the autonomic nervous system. So there's fight or flight over here, and there's rest and digest repair mode over here. And so, what chiropractic and movement does, what they do together, because chiropractic adjustments do this and movement helps with this. And when they're together, we get all the benefits of all those levels of the spine to do it together. So, it helps to reset that balance. It also opens the door for healing and whole body movement. So when you see a chiropractor, you're getting the benefit of reactivating and restoring normal access to all those parts to allow them to move and heal and regenerate as much as they possibly can. The longer they stay inactive, the more degeneration happens. That means early aging or premature aging. We don't want that. Chiropractic adjustments, just to prove that point, they can improve HRV. This is called heart rate variability, the number of variations in your heart rhythm in between beats. That is a sign of health, and it's a marker for longevity. So that's a key measure of nervous system adaptability. When you have very low heart rate variability, it means that we are stuck in fight or flight mode. We are not flexible in terms of being able to adapt to different situations. And if you're not flexible, if you don't bend, what happens? You can break, right? So we don't want our system to be under so much tension that it can't handle it. If we're going to be under tension, we want to be pliable, flexible, and able to adapt to all different life situations. Adaptability, I would submit, is one of the key terms for health. So let's get into some practical tools that you can employ and you can start today. If you're not active, if you're finding that it's difficult to think of where do I start with my activity? Where do I start with my exercise? Let's start with these five. And if you want more advice, more input, please reach out to me. I'm happy to give you some help and guidance. Otherwise, look for a personal trainer at your gym. There's a lot of different resources. Even online, you can get a lot of help. But these would be the ones I would curate to help you get started. And it doesn't take a lot of time. Number one, posture breaks. Every 30 to 60 minutes, take a posture break to reset your posture. You can see these people in the image here. They're standing with their chest open, their head over their shoulders, and their spine is tall, right? Just try to emulate or mimic the people in this picture. And while you're doing that, take 3 deep breaths. Preferably do 4, 7, 8 breathing. So that means a 4 count, 4 seconds. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for a count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that doesn't take very long. That was one. Do that 3 times in your reset, and then that'll help you get some oxygenation, open up your spine, let that nerve energy flow again, and really help your posture to if you're resetting it, you're taking that posture ideally back to wherever you were sitting. So if you're sitting with good posture, that's better. But if you find yourself slouching, getting so into your computer that your head's moving forward and into the screen, this posture break can help remind you where to sit. Next, morning mobility. Just take 3 minutes when you wake up. 3 minutes just to do this flow to wake up your spine. Each position, do it for 30 seconds in each direction. So that would be Cobra and Child's Pose. Do 30 seconds in Cobra, which you see in the top right. Child's Pose is the bottom right. And that will help to extend and to flex your spine. Then do 30 seconds on each side with standing side bends, like the picture in the upper left there. You can put your arm overhead if you like with your hand on your hip, or you can just put your hands on your hips and reach to the side or bend to the side. What you're trying to do is get every vertebra, every joint involved. So whether you're doing the cobra or the child's pose or side bending, or the last one is standing rotation. I like it when you're grabbing your elbow here because then you get your shoulders more involved, but you're trying to twist your spine in the last one. What it does is clears stiffness and it boosts your energy. Again, we're stimulating that pathway. We're activating the spinal joints and those little receptors, and the brain loves that. You want to move. Here's a tip. You want to move every single joint in your body, its full range of motion every single day of your life. So your feet, your toes, your knees, everything. You want to move whatever direction it can move, every direction, full range of motion at least once every single day of your life. Tool number three, walking as therapy. This is what I mentioned before, walking briskly for 30 minutes once a day. You can do it after meals, which will help improve your digestion and your circulation. Now, you're not trying to go for a run after a meal. That sounds a little counterintuitive because you might get an upset stomach. I'm just asking you to go for a brisk walk, okay? And that'll also help with stress recovery. Maintaining good posture and deep breathing while you're walking will help with enhanced benefits. Number four, do a strength reset. If you haven't been getting to the gym and you have difficulty finding time, you're like, I'm so busy. I don't have the time to go to the gym right now. My first response to that is, we need to find the time. If what I find with my patients is those who haven't been finding the time to take care of their bodies end up breaking down and they come into the office looking for their health reset. They need to get their health back because they have a four-alarm fire in their body, and we help them put out the fire. But the cause of that fire was that we weren't taking care of our bodies with regular chiropractic care proactively beforehand, or we weren't doing regular exercise either. Okay. So with preventative maintenance chiropractic care, you keep all those parts moving well before they break down and well before they lock up and become degenerated. You exercise well before you have evidence of heart disease, evidence of you're gaining excess weight. You start to do these things before you develop the problems. That's the ideal. But once we get ourselves back into that sweet spot, we want to maintain it. The lesson here is let's not just rely on resets. Let's not just rely on New Year's resolutions coming in January. Let's do it now. Let's get up and start doing these exercises now. So tool number four, let's just do these three. Squats, do using your body weight. The picture on the left there, that woman is sitting, she's right next to her couch. If it feels like, oh, that's really hard to get all the way, to that level where my thighs are parallel to the floor, we'll do it next to the couch. So if you fell backwards, you can fall onto the couch and you won't hurt yourselves. You can add dumbbells if you feel like you want to make it a little more challenging, or you can do it like she's doing with her arms out like that. Push-ups, you can do them on a wall, you can do them inclined or on the floor, and on the floor you can do them on your knees or on your toes. You can make those more difficult by doing them with, one leg up off the ground. You can do them where you bring one knee up to one elbow. I can show you several varieties of push-ups to make it more challenging. I look at these as potential exercise snacks. You can be cooking something in the kitchen and it's going to take 2 minutes to, cook this chicken breast on one side or 5 minutes to cook it on one side before you flip it. You have 5 minutes in the kitchen that you can stand there and do squats and push-ups. And if you have the third exercise, if you have a resistance band or dumbbells or little weights. You don't have to start off with anything super heavy. You can get little weights and you can do the bent over rows where you want to stick your butt out. If this is you standing, you stick your butt out, but you want to keep your low back arched. So you want to keep your chest opened up, your low back arched, and then you bend forward and then you pick up whatever weight it is up to your chest. So your target is to bring that weight up to your chest, or you can put a resistance band around your feet and you can pull that resistance band. So the resistance band would be sitting like a U and you'd stand on it. You can grab both ends of the resistance band and pull up. The idea here is if we're pushing with push-ups, we're going to pull with these bent over rows. We can also do presses overhead. We can do pull-ups or pull downs. There's so many more muscles to cover, but this covers the bigger muscle groups. With the squats, we're getting our legs involved. With the upper body, the push and the pull, we're getting our chest and our back involved. And then this last here, the core restore, we're going to get our core involved. So the connector between everything. This is the anchor of the body. The lower extremity attaches to our lumbar region and our pelvis. That's the lumbopelvic complex. That whole region is our anchor of our body. And our upper body attaches to our core, which is our torso, our trunk, and our pelvis. So here's 4 exercises to do for your core restore. This shouldn't take you any more than 5 minutes. I'd love to see you do longer than that, but if you can give me 5 minutes, I'll take it. Front plank. You can start with a 30-second and work your way up to 60-second front plank. That's the upper left corner in this image, these images. Side plank is the bottom left image. You can hold that for 15 to 30 seconds each side. That generally is half of what you do on a front plank. A glute bridge is the person in the upper right picture where you're lying on your back, you bend your knees, and then you pop up your glutes to make a straight line from your shoulders all the way up to your knees. Try to do 10 to 15 reps of those. And lastly, the bird dog. The bird dog, you do each side. You reach opposite arm and leg. So your left arm would be reaching, your right leg would be reaching back. And you want to reach far, not high. And you hold each side for 10 seconds. And meanwhile, you bring your belly button up to your spine and you hold that for the whole 10 seconds. And then you switch and go to the other side. I'd love to see you do 3 to 5 of those on each side. That would be great to help stabilize your spine. Again, that same discussion about how healthy is your spine that we are stabilizing, that is something I'll share with you in a moment. So when we look at how chiropractic can help you, so what would be next steps? If you can add these elements of movement, if you're not currently a chiropractic patient, I encourage you to get an evaluation. Come in and find out, well, how healthy is this pathway? If you look at the image to the right, that patient had no idea when we took their x-ray and showed them what their curvature was, they had no idea that their pathway was that kinked up. That is going to create compromise and wear and tear in an uneven way in several areas of that spine. Now, that scoliosis needs to be addressed more aggressively, but many people have variations of that on a lesser scale that are still causing them limitations, immobility, and restriction in terms of how much they can get out of their movement. But also, when you see those kinks in that pathway, it predisposes us to uneven wear and tear and uneven loading. So think about carrying something on the right side all the time. That side will wear out and be more predisposed to injury than the other side. So it's super important we unlock those stuck patterns and reconnect you to healthy ones. When you move, so let's say you get this adjustment, you can see me adjusting somebody down there in the bottom left. Once you get adjusted, the goal is to get you to move and to move not only what we do in the office with corrective exercises, but also to take it to global exercise like the ones that I was sharing today and beyond. Together, they help you create lasting results and long term healing because your body is able to benefit for the long haul. This movement that is so essential to our well-being, and like I said, is a genetic requirement. Now, current patients, if you don't have a functional movement plan, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you to establish that. I can find out what exercises and activities you like, and we can blend that together and find how do we get the most out of what you like with what we need to do. And like I said, if you're not a current patient of ours, we can help you find somebody if you're not in our area. And if you are in our area, please schedule. You can reach out and find a time to come in, and we'll do a thorough evaluation. We'll look at your posture. We'll look at your mobility. We'll identify your health goals and then help you meet them. So get evaluated and live your life well adjusted. Schedule now if you are available. If you want to reach out to us, our website is wholebodyhealthchiropractic.com, and there's a button at the top that says schedule now if you're interested. Otherwise, reach out to us if you are not in this area and you want help finding a chiropractor. We're happy to look in our database to help you find one. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If anybody has any questions right now, please chime in. Um, if not, then I will wrap it up, and I look forward to seeing you and meeting you soon. Well, thank you for attending. Thank you for being here, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording. I will have one more summer reset program coming up in September for the official start of fall, and I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.